Hello, welcome back to the JRB podcast with myself, Ryan Levine, joined here by Jeff Jones and Bohdan Temnick.
It's
Hey guys.
So today, as the title probably implies, we will be discussing the April 2024 Forbidden and Limited card list update, as it says on the website.
And I just want to point out
does it
that
actually say that?
Yeah. Anyways,
What does it say?
Forbidden and Limited card list update.
Oh,
But
it
go
does say
ahead.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Go
I was like,
ahead.
that we were 90% right.
It is
on the last
actually
podcast.
crazy how I'm like, I mean,
on a
yeah.
lot of things. So first of all, not only were we right about a lot of cards, but also we were right about it being posted during a YCS, just the wrong YCS.
Yes, yeah, just the small detail of I think we said something like it would be so cool if it was posted during Raleigh. Well, they posted it during the Mexico YCS. So
Well, now imagine, right? What if they did it during Raleigh and that tie-in to get you to watch the actual stream, which is probably redundant because some streamer would be restreaming it to like 2 times the amount of people, and then that would eliminate the process. But watch the Yu-Gi-Oh stream, Banlist will drop, haha. Like that's definitely a selling point
that
to
would
watch.
have been
Right?
If they'd announced ahead of time, like if like round 1 and they go, the ban list will be revealed round 5 or something.
Right.
Like
yes, during lunch break, we will reveal the ban list.
we will announce it.
We'll talk about it.
We will announce it over the loudspeaker at the event.
Mm-hmm.
That
is so BM.
What if they just started yelling out cards and you had to like guess
you
where
guess
they
where
fall
it is on the list?
Well, tell you all the cards on the list, but you have to figure out where they actually are.
Yeah.
Are you saying for the next ban list reveal that's during a YCS weekend, you would like them to do a Jeopardy style? You pick the tiles and we adjust.
They say like clues. They're like, I am a synchro monster that negates, but I do not destroy.
Shut up.
Everyone's like, God.
They're like, somewhere Baron is on this list. And I'm surprised it's limited to 2.
SP Little Knight.
I would yell. Okay. I would yell if they say something like that, or like SP Little Knight or something, and it's like, it's a 2. I'd be like, oh, okay.
All right, great.
I would just leave the venue. I'll go home.
Okay, anyways, so where do we want to start from? The Forbidden or start from the Unlimiteds? Like, which direction do we want to go?
I mean, I think it's easier to start from the Forbidden because we'll talk about those the longest, and the other ones we can kind of skim through because a lot of them are like really inconsequential.
As you can tell, this is on the fly. I would also like to make the argument that we tend to drift off, like the Unlimited and the Semi and like the Limited, they tend to be the ones that don't have a lot of substance behind like discussion, right? Because these are all just like, oh, this card was at 1 for X, Y, and Z reason, like consistency.
No, it is not.
I would like to argue maybe we should try talking Unlimited.
Yeah, that's
the ban part. Yeah. But I don't know.
Well, let's just jump into it. We've already wasted 4 minutes on pretending that they would announce vague hint, like they would leave like serial killer-esque notes about cards that are getting banned at YCS.
All right. Okay. Hear me out though. Proposal for any Konami person listening: next ban list drop for YCS Vegas. I want like a roulette wheel. Just something funny.
All right.
Just something for fun.
Okay. So Forbidden, Link Karibo. We talked about this a lot and said we wanted this, and it happened. I don't really want to go over like too much because I think we've already spoken about why we thought this card should have been banned in previous episodes. But I guess to summarize, like it just like it's in everyone's deck for Snake Eyes. It's just a super generic card, and I think it just makes targeting effects pretty much invalid on level 1 monsters after the very first one. So
there are also combos in some of these decks that require you to like summon Link Karibo and then also summon it back from the graveyard in the same turn. Especially in the Fire King variant, like there's a combo that if you only start with Ash and nothing else, you need to summon Link Karibo twice, and that was to also summon
Heat Soul, right?
Heat Soul.
Yeah.
But now you can't even make Heat Soul. So
that's true.
You can, but it is a lot less fluid, and it's very like convoluted, roundabout way of like doing everything. Like it's not even close to the same deck. If you want to summon Heat Soul, I've found it's very unpleasant.
So I don't know how you summoning it because I don't actually know. Is there a fire? I mean, I guess it would be like what Almirage and a Fire
I'm gonna put
Cybers
it.
monster?
I'm gonna
It's be
put it
a
this way, Jeff.
non-fire Cybers monster, right? It has to
Each
be.
time
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
was
Yeah,
watching
like
people,
IP
yeah,
Masquerade.
Yeah.
each time I was watching people theorize it, it was it was just
I mean, yeah,
it was a
it
combo
would.
that you would lose to
It
Nib
would.
before you even got to play Heat Soul, and it was just unplayable, and it was not good.
Yeah,
Okay.
like to
Yeah,
make Heat Soul now, it
insane.
would be like Sunlight Wolf plus IP, or like Almirage
Mhm,
plus
mhm.
IP, and like that's so much worse than Link Karibo plus Sunlight Wolf, while also triggering the Sunlight Wolf by summoning back the Link Karibo. Like that's
Right.
so much worse. So yeah, I know this is like Link Karibo definitely like not on the same power level of the other 3 cards that are banned, but
It's there
I
for
think-
a different reason.
yeah, it is there for a different reason, and I think that's what a lot of people don't quite like get. It's just like, you know, they I saw a lot of posts like, haha, like Link Karibo sure was the reason fire was good. Like, I mean, no, but it definitely helps. Like, it's just it's a card that we haven't talked about this in a while. It's a card that limits design space, right? It's like you can't make broken level 1s while Link Karibo exists. However, they do it anyway. So, you know, but clearly clearly they've been doing it anyway.
I
So
would
here we are.
genuinely like to make the argument that like you have to look at a card like Link Karibo in some capacity as a 16th extra deck card, right? Because in Grave it is achieving that. Like you are taking level 1s off board, and we've seen it, you know,
Oh,
since
yeah,
it came
that's
out.
true.
It's just been how
Yeah.
it works. Like make an average board with Goki, have the floating Link Karibo, you now have the option to, you know, enable certain things with Octo Stretch and all the other stuff, like because you have the floating Link
Yeah,
Karibo.
trigger Firewall,
And you don't
trigger
have to
Gumlar on their
you don't have to
turn.
jeopardize your extra deck space by putting, you know, 2 copies of Anima to achieve the same thing. This is what people are sort of, you know, arguing. Is like,
Right.
oh, Relinquish Anima does this. No, it doesn't. Like, it does the same thing in like base level combos. Like, yes, like if you aim to do X, Y, I don't see why, you know, you would want to do the same combos with that thing. Like, I think just having a Link one is fine. But you saw the same thing in Orcus. You saw the same thing in a range of other decks over time, where like Link Karibo Engrave is just filling that role. And now, like, Link Karibo doesn't exist. You may or may not have to play 2 copies of a certain, you know, Link one in some strategies just to, you know, compensate for what it gave you.
Yeah, see, I the thing is that Link ones basically serve no purpose except for throwing a monster into the graveyard. And
Unless
that's
they're
like
very archetype specific, right?
So
Like
this
if
is
we're
what
looking at, you know, the Vanquish Soul cards or something.
right. And I mean, honestly, they are like, yeah, putting it into the graveyard so you can just add them back to hand. Like realistically, I think that the Vanquish Soul Link one doesn't even really make much sense
That's fair.
thematically.
Yeah.
But I would prefer that Link ones don't exist, or they make Link ones super specific and like also powerful. So like how they did with the
Do you want like
Infernoble
Strike
guy.
Dragon? Or like do you
no, like
sure.
yeah, like make it like, oh yeah, you have Link one monsters that you throw things into the graveyard, but they are way more specific and harder to summon instead of just because like no Link one monster are you summoning because, oh yeah, this has like an amazing effect I want to trigger most of the time. Like you're not making Almirage because you want to summon Almirage, you're making Almirage because you want that monster in the graveyard
You want to trigger
abuse
Sangan.
somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want
So
your Sangan search.
do you want more stuff like the Sun Avalons? Because I genuinely I think the Sun Avalon cards themselves, like for what they're achieving with the Link one, I think is quite like nice and fair. Like similar to, like
yes, because that's like a Link based deck, right? It's all like flows one into another. Like it's supposed to be like this into this into this, and all the links like work with each other. Whereas all the other Link ones, like if they're not from an archetype, are
the
just
generic. They enable bullshit. Yeah.
yeah. Like Striker Dragon is not even like. I think we've talked about that card could even be banned or whatever.
There's a point to it. Like even like when we were at generic points of Striker Dragon, we were seeing people doing it in like branded in Japan for like a little bit, because it was like, oh, if I don't get to, you know, see branded fusion, what would they were making Striker Dragon with Albaz to enable like branded in red or something, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there are all these like very very niche interactions that you could only do with Striker Dragon, right? Because all the other Link ones have like a stat restriction, and Striker Dragon's like, okay, archetypal, generic.
Like
and
if Striker Dragon was just a normal monster Link 1 and it was a dragon, you would still play it in the Dragon Link deck because it throws Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon baby in the graveyard, and then you search for Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, summon it, and like it just so happens to also have a great fucking effect that facilitates
like
the rest of your
deck. 2
deck.
insane effects.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. But yes. Yeah, I think it's like something that a lot of people are also overlooking is Link Krubo's effect. Like the battle phase in modern Yu-Gi-Oh is way less pronounced than it has been in the past. However, it is still extremely relevant, and the fact that Link Krubo basically says like it's usually paired in most modern decks with like an Appaloosa, and it's like okay, you now need 2 monsters that can attack over Appaloosa before.
I need to get them on there without activating monster.
Without active monster effects, yeah, or yeah, like you know, it's like I think just now it's like it like Appaloosa. Appaloosa is notably a card that was not banned. That people said, why didn't you ban that when you also banned Baron and Savage? We'll talk about that. But I think Appaloosa also gets worse because Link Karibo is not bad, but worse because Link Karibo is banned, and I think people will notice that pretty quickly. I think that like they will actually just be able to attack over Appaloosa like a reasonable, like normal, like special Fenrir attack. You know, just like activate no effects. Like here we are, right? But we will see how that shapes up. But I personally think that this makes Appaloosa quite a bit worse. But all right, any other thoughts on Link Karibo, or do we want to move to the next one?
No. I think you did raise a good point where I think like in regards to like protecting stuff like Appa, we see it a lot more where you'll have something ridiculous that makes a card like Link Karibo look a lot worse than maybe it does at first glance, right? And the Snake Eye stuff had to be that. And we talked about like how Link Karibo was like playable beforehand, but it obviously didn't fill a similar role to like what it was filling in this pocket of Yu-Gi-Oh with Snake Eye. And I guess you can sort of apply that to silly stuff like anti-spell, summon limit. Like over the years, it's like yes, like we knew from the point of inception, like these are probably going to be cards that'll end up being problem cards. And really, all it takes is like one format where this card just is egregiously powerful, and that's where that's when people are like, oh, Link Karibo did nothing wrong. It's like yeah, like if you really think about it, if Snake Eye didn't exist, like Link Karibo probably wouldn't be banned. But as Ryan has also put home, this limits future card design. Like who's to say we don't have Snake Eye 2 3 years from now? Like let's just get rid of Link Karibo entirely. Let's not limit potential stuff in the future. So I think it's always a good thing to look at. Same with Summon Limit as well. I guess we can talk about Summon Limit now. That's on the Forbidden List.
So this is a card that we were, I'm gonna say, clamoring for to get banned. Like I think all 3 of us, yes, all the homies hate Summon Limit, etc. Great, actually fantastic. No notes. This card is dumb. Thoughts?
I'm just happy that I never have to worry about when my opponent sets a card if it's summon limit. That's just it. We were talking about that earlier. Like when my opponent set a card after summoning a board, you're just like, game 2 and 3, you're like shit. And now I really don't have to feel that anymore. I mean, there are still other cards that can be problematic, but it's another one.
Yeah, summon limit's just the most generic. Also, like which we'll see. I guess spoiler alert. Haha. Anti-spell got limited. I don't know why. Kind of weird they picked out 2 floodgates and said this one gets banned, this one gets limited. I don't really get that, but here at least it's like the days of just half the decks in the room having a side deck of like just generic floodgates that auto won the game just by existing are maybe like they're almost gone, right? Like we're really closing in on like over just the last 2 lists.
I can't wait till I make a deck that can use Rivalry goes in, and there can be only one somehow, and they just side deck all 3.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean that's it's.
I mean that was just what Summon Limit was, though, right? Summon Limit was just all 3 of those cards combined that any deck could play, just going first. Like it just So, I'm sure we'll see more obscure floodgates like see play, and like people will. But again, now you have to find the weird niche one that works for your deck. And like you can't just put in summon limit, and here we are. I'm big fan of this. I hope we see anti-spell get banned, like go from 1 to 0 in 1 or 2 lists from now. But and again, like I think what I hate about anti-spell the most is just that like the most common. Like, it's so weird to say, but, like, I think because the most common back row outs are spells, anti-spell is a card that, like, checks its own checks. And then the other end of the spectrum is, like, well, the really like the broken ones that prevent summoning also generally their checks get countered because most decks now end with a negation of sorts in addition to their Floodgate, right? And that's the biggest issue, I think.
Right.
Which is also why I feel like skill drain is like close to the most okay one, because you can't have like a negate next to your skill drain.
Yes.
So if your opponent does have a way to interact with it, you usually can't just
the most
negate.
problematic part is like your
Yeah.
opponent has a bunch of big monsters, your deck is all little effect monsters,
Yes.
and you know
Yes.
that's just like a deck building choice. Your deck
Yeah.
building choice has to be, when I build this deck, I am sacrificing having a monster effects.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Which is like that's been true since like 2005 in people's decks that sided skill drain. You know, so like whatever. Not to say that I think skill drain is 100% okay. It's just I think it is significantly more okay than summon limit.
Yes,
Like,
I've definitely lost a skill
significantly.
drain multiple times in the past month, but
but it never quite.
I could have drawn a Cosmic Cyclone and I would have won. Whereas summon limit plus Baron or something like that, I would not have won.
You just can't. You literally can't. Like it very often seems near impossible.
I feel like we've discussed the potential skill drain playback as well when it comes to formats where like Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse are also playable, because like same with Econ and stuff like that, right? You do have the option to just like proc an effect chain, put it face down, take it off board. So there's like more playback to a card like Drain. Not to say that Drain isn't an issue. I think Drain can and will be a problem, but like
we're not saying Drain is perfect.
Like
it's just less problematic than the other ones in my opinion.
It's like like maybe in the cash format like last year, where you had 3 Book of Moon and like you had Eclipse in some capacity, even Econs, like you could make the argument like, oh well, Drain's not the issue. It's like when we delve into like the territory of like Goes and everything else, like paired with Drain for like other removal aspects, against like Lab and stuff like that, it becomes dicey.
I mean, we've seen in the Vegas 3v3 that Dom won, where he had to play against, I think it was Herman, and Herman had skill drain face up, and he just like had Fenrir and Book of Moon and was able to
just kept punching
win.
him. Yeah, those are pretty decent too. But like now like I card like skill drain into these decks that are playing a bunch of hand traps to compensate for the other decks. Like you get into this kind of paradox of like, well, I can't play Book of Moon now, it's not good. It's like to the extent maybe it's Econ, like was you said Cosmic Cyclone, like you saw a lot of people cutting that card as well, and this sort of like layer. And I guess that's why I was seeing like decks like Runic Stun and stuff do quite well, because it's very difficult to adapt and beat those strategies sometimes when you are trying to compensate for the best deck in the format. And like what the remedy to something like that would just be getting rid of skill drain entirely. But then you are also just playing that nice single game of I'm only busting Snake Eye. There is nothing else. I don't have to worry. You know what I mean? You're not kept on your toes at all. And part of me likes that part. I like the idea of just potentially losing to a Floodgate, and then I sort of feel justified in my choices to put a card like Cosmic.
You like the idea of potentially losing to a Floodgate. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I don't condone that one, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, because then I'm just losing to the game, not myself. That's always
fair enough.
Talk about that.
I think we can kind of group the next two together, Baron and Savage. I think most of the time.
I don't think you can group them together. I feel like Baron is like way too far gone compared to Savage, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think on most of the decks right now specifically are summoning both if they summon one. But yes, in the past it's not always been the case. But yeah.
Okay. So my biggest issue with a card like Baron is that I feel like their card design post Baron release has really been catered more towards like Baron itself. Whether that's intentional or not, you cannot tell me that all of the good hand traps are level 3 tuners, and all of these decent generic-ish cards tend to just be 7s, right? Yeah, like so 7s. Yeah, like there's no way that's not like actual design is purely coincidental. Like that's an oversight, if anything.
And then the level 1 tuners make Savage, and the level 1 tuners make Link Karibo. And set up Savage.
That one, sure. Like that one again. But I'm saying like more to the point of like the amount of times that you can get stopped in any deck, right? Even it's like Cash Tier's weakest hand. Like what happens? Half the time you might get stopped on like a Unicorn. You'll normal summon a hand trap and make a Baron. and have like hand trap backing. And I think that's like more oppressive than just ending on, like a unicorn and passing. And
Yeah.
that same thing happens like summon Diabell Star, get hand trapped on Diabell Star. Maybe your hand is just like particularly weak. You still do have the option to normal summon the Baron. They're down a card. You're down what, like, 3 cards, I guess. But you do have a negate. You will have hand trap backing. And I think that's when we have to look at like, oh, this is like a very justified ban, even without looking at the combos that end on Baron, or like the ones that like, just facilitate it. Just the ability to just shit it out for no reason at all, I think, is where it becomes a key concern. Because before you had to jump through hoops to put negates like that out, right? Like now you just cough, a hand trap turns into it. That being justification, right?
Yeah, think about the difference in like, I know this is like, a decade of card design, but think about the difference of like a negate now is like Baron, like just generic level 10 synchro, and a negate back then was shooting Quasar Dragon, which for those of you who don't know is a level 12 synchro that needs two non-tuner synchro monsters and a tuner synchro monster to get once per turn when your opponent activates a card or effect, negate it. Like it was crazy, right? And like now it's just like level 7 plus level 3, whatever. But
well, even I guess even looking at stuff like I like comparatively, you can look at stuff like Stardust Dragon as well.
Yeah,
and like there's at least like playback to Stardust Dragon's stat line. Like
yes,
you like if your hand is still all removal, like there is a world where you're just able to attack over it. Like Stardust still has to be paired with like cards. Oh, apologies. I had my phone in my head.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, but like like Baron 3K base, which is understandable. It is like a 10. I just think there were just like big key oversights that they could have looked at the past for when designing this this card specifically. I feel like its stat line is off. I feel like how easy it is to summon is just off. It just being a negate and destroy is off, and the tag out ability I also think is just like that's the icing on the cake. It doesn't need to have that.
Yeah. So
I mean, it could have just had the negate effect and not a destroy effect and not a return to the extra deck, summon something else effect, and it still would have been the best level 10 still. Like
not even close. I feel like it would have just been a mainstay the same way we saw it as a mainstay now. Like now you're giving us a negate, and it's like here's 4 different things it can do, and
like
it's easy to summon.
Like there were times like before it was banned where you're like, I will go into Artifact Scythe or something like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Like that was the whole thing, right? Before rollback, there was the virtual world deck, right? That would just summon like some of these decks would summon like 2 Baron, and they would dump like
use one
Scythe.
as a negate, and then it's like if you try to interact with Scythe, it gets negated, and then you get
tagged up Baron, pop your own Scythe, tag it out. It's like okay,
I did that in my Symphonic Warrior
right?
deck. Hee. And then that's I'll have to share that. Man, why? If I thought people wouldn't take it as seriously, I definitely would have like made a post like, now my Symphonic Warrior deck can't pop Scythe with Baron and tag it out. Like, why do they keep hitting my Rogue deck? But like people would think I was probably being a little more serious. I don't know. I think those posts are so funny when somebody's like, now blank tier 7 unplayable deck is even worse. It's like, okay, but
at that point, your deck is not like X deck that you spend. It's the same. It's the same with that B Trooper deck, where it's like your deck wasn't a B Trooper deck. Your deck was summon DB.
So DP control deck. Yeah.
DP retaliating C control strategy. Yeah. It's like all it was, right? And it's the same thing with these other decks where it's like, oh, so your deck was completely facilitated by the broken card that also the broken deck would use. Like, oh, that's unfortunate. Like you should maybe reevaluate your stance on the game.
It was just Scythe and DP, right?
Yeah.
The other so one thing I want to touch on, the probably last thing I want to say about Baron is like going back to those situations that you were talking about where like, obviously it's good in a board, and it's also just good in like the really scrappy game states where like you summon something, they negate it, you summon a hand trap. Because like usually in the situations, it's because you drew like multiples of the same hand trap. Like you summon a unicorn, it gets impermed, you have 2 ashes in your hand. You're like, oh, this sucks. Like normal summon ash, like make Baron. And now you have, now instead of having an ash and a dead ash that you couldn't use because you can't use both, and then they just kill you, you now have a Baron. And now it's like, you're not in like, that's not a game winning Exodia position. It's just like, now you have a chance
Yeah,
to
you
stop
traded
them.
one point of interaction
Yeah.
and an extra deck rip for 2 points of interaction and the ability to tag out Baron on the
Yes,
following turn
that's the
to get
huge one.
Unicorn again.
Because if
And
they
but
don't clear it,
that's yes,
now your engine
you
is
just do
back
it
on
again.
lock. Yes, and that's
But
not
so
just
the
true.
crazy part in those spots though that I've
Mhm.
found especially is like when it is those awkward ones of like double hand trap level 7, you get to try again. And if the unicorn gets stopped again, you make the Baron again.
Yeah,
And it just
because
it's
it goes
all
back in your extra.
compounding.
Yeah,
Like okay,
yeah.
we love to say it goes infinite, but I feel like Baron quite literally can go infinite sometimes in these very, yeah, like you said, scrappy game states. Like it's not quite simplified because everything is, hidden, but it's simplified when you look at both of the cards because half of them don't do anything, right? Like that's simplified.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's something that I guess I'm gonna say making Baron compared to making other synchro monsters isn't an investment in that no matter what, when it comes like Baron, it's only once while it's face up on the field, like it's balanced, it can only negate once. Yeah, but then it just tags out back into your engine,
And the
right?
game
Like
just goes
that's
short that sometimes one is all you need.
yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. Either the game is short and you only need one, or the game is long and it's better served turning back into your engine piece.
And
then,
like okay, so this is us talking about it before we even look at the combo decks, right? Because
yeah.
I think like as we've talked about, like haha tier 7, like whatever, this deck is only
Yes.
facilitated by Baron. Like you're seeing a very similar trend for the decks like like Vanadium and like all the stuff in between, where these decks need Baron early, otherwise they are folding to like a single hand trap in crucial spot.
Nibiru specifically, right?
Yeah, Nibiru specifically, but I think you can maybe argue like some pairings that are just like
Yeah.
less than desirable.
Sure.
Like that's specifically like when we're looking at the ignorant combo decks that are doing nothing more than play out your hand and board, and then if you go to like the Snake Eye thing, it's like half the Snake Eye decks weren't prioritizing Baron. Like you would have some playback of like a hand trap early. So I would even argue I don't think Snake Eye was the selling point to banning Baron for
Oh,
me.
definitely not.
I
Absolutely
think
not.
I think it was definitely like I think it was a tipping point for Konami, but for me it's like I think this card should have been banned long ago.
Oh,
It's like
I
if
think
you're
for
just
sure.
realizing the tier 0 deck is like this deck can summon Baron. It's like yeah, but sometimes it doesn't even get to summon. It's not getting to this point. And I think we can probably say the same thing about the next card we end up talking about. If you guys don't have anything else you want to segue it, or is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'm good to go on.
Yeah.
So
But like I feel like it's the same thing with Savage, right? Like sometimes
yes.
you aren't getting to that point where you can Savage, but it's when you do, have that very clean, like you're able to set this up sequentially. It's not summon Snake Eye Ash, get hand trapped pass. It's like, no, you have like Witch Ash, whatever. You have a level 7 plus Ash, that does it. Like Unicorn Ash does this. Okay, you get to your Savage, it's fine. Everything else is insulated, you invalidate Nib, it's all compounding.
Yeah.
Right. The thing is, I think Savage should have been banned before as well, right?
Yes, but and to go back to something that you said earlier about how like it seemed like their card design was almost leaning towards these cards with like the level 7s and just how the tuners end up like lining up. It does scheme when I think about okay, since the release of Age of Overlord, and again, maybe this is the fault of Sinful Spoil's original sin or whatever, and like haha Jet Synchron is, why is it whenever there's a problem it's always you, something.
Oh yeah.
That the puzzle for some of these decks that were just playing an engine and then wanted to play D Bellstar, if they already had access to their engine and they went, well, my D Bellstar can also get Jet Synchron, what do I make? It was sort of like, I'll make Baron and Savage. Like, how do I get a level 7 and a level 9? It's like, oh, wow, I'll get a level 7, which is Tia Bellstar, and then I'll get a level 9, which is Turbulence, or like, I'll do Flameburge plus a 1 plus a jet, or, some equivalent, and like, oh, wow, can summon my banished jet?
I have Effect Veiler in my deck. Oh, I started my turn with Emergency.
Yeah.
I'm able to normal summon Veiler and make, Baron, Savage, all compounding. Yeah. And that's before you even get into, the whole thing leading up to all of this. Because I think this is another one where they had the incremental hits, right? Because I think we didn't truly see Savage shine I'm trying to think when we actually saw like Savage become. I guess the Rocket deck is where
Yeah,
you would just
Dragon
see
Link
like
is when that card peaked, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in
Uh,
between, like every other deck that would open it was like the Auroradon like combo stuff, right? Like Firebrax would really, just
okay,
push
so
this over the
while
top.
you're on that topic, I want to
Mm.
bring up something that is like a pet peeve for me, and it's because Ryan mentioned it kind of offhandedly, where it's like, oh, Jet Synchron, why is it always you? I want to point out that before Hulk of Firebrax, no one played Jet Synchron and no one played Glow Up Bulb. Those were not in the decks people were playing
Yeah.
at the time.
Hey,
So
we played Blow Up Bulb
Yeah, we
at,
did play
at
Glow Bulb
yeah,
OICS one time.
and what?
Yeah.
in Thunder
In
Dragon
the Thunder Dragon
and
pile
Danger
deck.
Thunder. Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
To be fair, we played it for link material.
Well, you
We
could
played
also
it
make
because it was
Yazi.
just
You
free.
could make a Yazi as well
Yes.
randomly, which is kind of funny.
I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't play Global because
Yeah.
also there were no good synchros. That was like before Baron
Yeah.
came out.
We
If Baron
would
were
make
out,
Yazi
all
and
these
Brianna.
decks. I'm gonna say if Baron were out, way more decks would have played Global
Yeah.
Bulb for sure. If Baron was a
Yeah,
card that existed,
definitely.
like there's no
I
way.
feel like maybe more decks would be using Savage because I think one lines up with way better with sevens than it does with nines. But
Sure.
yes,
Mm.
yes, there are better synchros and would have seen more play. But
Well, now they're all
I
banned.
think it's
So
I
maybe
think
the
it's
tuners
very
can come
weird when
back.
people are like, I think these tuners were like facilitated by the other broken cards,
Oh, for sure.
not so much them being broken themselves. Like even when in like plant format, I think that the access to Hyper Library and drawing 20 cards in one turn was way more problematic than like Glow Bulb itself or something like that.
Yes.
Well, you could see that crazy just shift, right? If you look at the 2010, you have your Edison deck, and then you compare it to like 2011 plan and just like how they play out. It doesn't like the 11 one feels so much more fluid because like you have so many options, you're able to do so much. The Edison version feels like you were doing one thing. Like you were literally doing one thing, and like again, like that's just because we have all of these broken synchros like that were released in that span of probably 16 months or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Librarian, you see the same in Modern. It's just what happens. It's like these are broken cards, but they're not broken at the time. Obviously, didn't get to have Bulb for Edison itself, but in a similar vein.
Also, would like to point out, Link Rebo is the most common card that you see attached to Borreload Savage Dragon. So, the collateral there, I guess, just the double kill,
the double whammy.
Literally, I was talking to Jeff before we started. Is like there are boards in this game that existed that the face-up cards on the table were a Baron, a Savage, a Link Rebo, and a Summon Limit, and like that is a board that was not uncommon. So like. Yeah, there we are. I guess the last thing I want to say about the forbidden section, I made a tweet about this where I just said like, I think this is an interesting step. Also, to kind of jump off of the set rotation and card design thing that we talked about last episode. We're talking about all the different ways they can do banlist or whatever, and I think this is an interesting one in that they didn't hit the actual engine of the best deck, but they absolutely gutted a ton of the generic win conditions, right? Like I would have liked to see probably Zelantis go as well. That would have been the only other thing that I think Zelantis, if this is their design intent for this ban list, is keep the best deck, keep the actual engine cards of the best deck intact, but just get rid of the generic floodgates and the generic boards and whatever. I think missing Zelantis, in my opinion, and then Appaloosa to some extent, but mostly Zelantis.
Well, there's one other one.
Is the one, but is where I think like that's the only true miss on this list. Like I don't think this list is 100% perfect, but I think it is very interesting for what I think they were going for. And I think Zelantis is a weird one to have not also banned, but they just hit the generic cards, so now you have to figure out a new win condition in that the pure deck can't just go Savage Baron if it wants to. These decks have a much harder time making Decode Talker because they don't have access to Link Rebo. And we'll just see where it goes. But
I think
when I said
there's definitely
they,
some things you can do, but oh, sorry,
yeah,
Jeff, you go.
yeah, no. So when I said like they missed one, like the other huge one before Zelantis, even for me personally, is Sanctifier. Like that's a big
Sure,
card.
sure. Yeah.
That's like I would expect that card because like what are they gonna do? Ban Gimmick Puppet and then also ban something else like later down the road and then like ban Jaugen and then again and like is Sanctifier just going to continue being a problem? And it is a problem right now and more than one. Like you can play it in the
And the voiceless deck too.
Yeah, you
voiceless
can
deck
play it in
as well.
voiceless. You can do the jogging stuff. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that was a huge thing that I was pretty sad. I mean, it was that and Shifter was nowhere to be seen, and those were the two things that I wish were hit more than anything.
So, just curious, right? So you bring up it's like, yeah, they'll ban like Puppet, Jaugen, like they have to go down the line. Do you think there's anything, um, in Engine for a deck like that that they could hit before anything else? So like people playing at home, because like in my head, I'm like the simple solution is to just ban Branded Fusion, but then you completely invalidate Branded and Despia as just a deck entirely. Do you think there's a world where you could possibly start hitting stuff
Well,
the Albion
Japan just
Fusion?
literally just
Alien?
kept limiting all the cards
Hmm.
instead of like
Yeah, ignore it. That one's the simplest solution to just completely, I hate that one so much because it feels so lazy, but it works every time, and I don't know why. Just don't print the cards. But like, yeah, do you think for TCG, given like they this is another topic of discussion where it's like, oh, 10 pie format, people are going to look at, something like D barrier and then like, oh, Brandon's just going to go to the side again because D barrier might make its way into sideboards. Haha. Like,
I mean,
back
not
to
only
squat.
in Tenpai, but like you'll see a bigger spike in Voiceless, which you just get to call
Hmm.
Ritual against.
Yeah. But so like, do you think if Brandon does present itself as a problem again, and they refuse to get rid of a card like Sanctifier, do you think there is a world where they ban a card like Albion or Lubellion or something like in that capacity, or do you think it'll
No,
just be
because
incremental
Sanctifier is still a
consistency hits?
problem.
Sure,
You
no,
still
that's what I
you
mean.
don't
It's like,
you get to summon Sanctifier without
mm.
those cards. So like
but it's like how many like do like I
you
don't
also
know
just
like
can't interact
mm,
with it unless you're ghost spelling
yeah.
it. You just can't interact with the card either. And they're like also they can also have the spell that says you
They'll
can't
have like lost
active.
or something, and you just can't do anything. Yeah. Like
Well,
if they have the Giga Crazy play where it's like they summon Sanctifier in your turn and then use its ability on summon, and you can't even bestial anything. Yeah, no, I those ones are depressing. But yeah, like I'm genuinely just like because I'm like you, like I feel like this is always an oversight. Like these are still problematic cards. Like does it have to be put in front of them for them to want to do it? Like is that Japan's criteria of like show me a YCS where
I
someone's doing
mean,
this, ban it.
yeah, I just feel like maybe the fact it's like I don't know how much is it? It was like a $30 card. It hasn't been reprinted yet. Maybe it's being
Hmm.
reprinted somewhere, but I hope as soon as this card gets reprinted that it just goes the hell away because I'm fucking over it.
I guess,
And I
man.
love I love the branded cards. Like Boden, like
Hmm. Yeah.
love the branded cards. So
I think that I think that deck does so much. And I agree with you. I think it's great. And like I didn't get to play branded with Sanctifier because like, I haven't been playing as much Yu-Gi-Oh! / it's not a deck that I think, I didn't get to put a lot of time into current format branded to offset the potential that you have for just like hate picks and just drawing badly, especially into like all these other decks being so powerful. So I didn't get to sanctify it. I don't know the true extent. I have been sanctified and gimmick puppeted, so I know the pain in that. And I know there is no playback sometimes, but the games where I did get gimmick puppeted, I felt like there were games that I was losing anyway. So maybe there's that. I don't know. So I'm trying to figure out what Konami's at with not touching these cards. So we will see.
I think that covers it for Forbidden, so we can
Yeah.
definitely move over to Limited, which definitely has the most interesting
Yeah,
changes.
I think these because
Yeah.
a lot
I
of
think
them.
everyone loves
Oh wait,
this.
is every single one of these other than anti spell? So there are 6 cards added to the limited section. Antismal Fragrance limited. I don't even want to talk about this. Haha, Floodgate. It's not like we can just what we said about Seven Limit, but again, I hope they ban this later. It doesn't matter. The other 5 are cards that were banned and came back. So I think that's where the most exciting things come from because there's really no way to know for sure how strong these cards could possibly be currently, and all we have is like trying to figure out where they would fall.
Yeah,
right?
I feel so these are cards that were just legal in Japan, right? Like
Uh,
Kieran is not
all of
legal.
them. No,
They
except
do
for
not-
Kieran.
illegal,
Kieran was
right?
not. Kieran was not.
Kieran
Kieran-
got on ban
No, it did
last
not.
list,
No,
right?
it didn't.
No, they still do
didn't.
not
They
have
still
Kieran.
don't have
They
it.
still don't have
Oh,
it.
No,
okay.
they reprinted the Megaspectre. They printed the Megaspectre cards and then did not bring Kieran back. 2 ban lists in a row in Japan.
Yes.
It's become a joke.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
However, they printed a reprint set in the. They did a new reprint set in the new simplified
it
Chinese.
just has Kieran in
and
it, right?
Kieran is printed
yeah.
in the simplified Chinese set, and it just isn't which I think they use their own list because they have a different card pool.
They have their own list. Yeah. They do,
but
they do.
yes, Japan does not have Kieran back. In Japan, that card is still banned. The rest of them are legal, and in fact, other than title, have like never not been legal. But we'll go to that. So Protos. This card, I guess I'll just say my quick thing, and you guys go at it. But I think this card is very strong. I'm not denying the strength of this card. I think people are overreacting to how strong this card could be.
Yes. 100%.
This card is good, but it is not like this card has been legal in Master Duel and Japan the whole time and sees some but not that much play. And I don't like using that as the definitive litmus, because we definitely played it more in the TCG. Like when Sword Soul came out, Protos was an extremely common side deck card in Japan for the Sword Soul deck. And they would just side one, and then very, very, very quickly, I feel like almost everyone in the TCG was like, why would we side this?
Yes.
We can just main this card is broken. Yeah, this card is great in this deck. I think Protos is a main selling point, in my opinion. Why? So like the other thing is Escados has never been banned and is a very similar effect and sees very little play. It has seen play, yes, but it sees far less play than Protos did. And all of the ways people are saying, oh, you can make the guy and you can get flagged, you can get Protos, like, and I'm sitting here like, you could just do that with Escados already and no one has done it. So that can't be that viable.
So some people had.
But not.
I just didn't think it was particularly great. Like it was like
exactly.
probably what in the rescue ace stuff. I think people were doing it, or there was something like a weird portion of
you
boss
could do it in the
I saw people
rescue
doing
ace
that, right?
because you can make rank 4s, and then there's the new rank 4 that searches the pyro monster and stuff like that.
And bonfire searches flag too, which is relevant.
It does.
But I guess the thing about Protos and why I think it was so good in the Sword Soul deck specifically is when you think about the other decks around it. And what Protos does specifically is Protos in a vacuum with no support can just call Dark. It does not kill any other cards in the Sword Soul board, because the Sword Soul board was Light Monster, sometimes Wind Monster, Baron, haha, and Protos. And Protos would call Dark. It would destroy itself, and then it wouldn't be destroyed because of its own effect. And then now your opponent can't summon Darks. And you don't play any Darks in your deck, really. So it does not affect you at all. I think in the supposed interactions that people are saying now, when they say, okay, I'm going to summon Protos, I'm going to call Fire to kill Nemesis Flag, and then now you can't summon Fires. And I'm just, and I guess I'm sitting here like, all right, then what deck is my opponent playing? Because if they're playing a Fire deck, it means that, when you think about all of the interaction that the Fire decks have, it's, a lot of it is summoning on their turn, like Princess. Like if they Protos and call Fire, it turns off their own Princess. It turns off their own Flame Bird. It turns off their own. Which,
but if your opponent plays 0 cards, it does not matter.
I think if they're just if you do that and your opponent just has cards in their hand that are just like Fenrir or Diabell Star or like anything, then you've turned off your entire deck. Also, it's really like it's definitely like. I mean, or also the chance they're just not playing the Fire deck. Like, and your entire game plan is this is your main deck and you're summoning Protos and you call Fire and your opponent just is playing any other deck.
You've also gotten it uncontested, right? Like, you had to have, jumped through the hoops. Your opponent either didn't hand trap you, or if they did hand trap you, you got to end on this, in which case, nail in the coffin, like, sure. Yeah. I understand where you're coming from. I think this card is what I would like to, what everyone likes to call, like, win more. It's another layer to maybe the Fire King matchup, less of like a more pure, like obviously who knows what the format looks like after the ban list. Like, will pure still exist? Who knows? I've seen some people trying it. I don't want to, really say too much. But I think like maybe this is gonna be very good into the Fire King deck that just tends to be, more like resourcey, like this is more push and shove, right? Compared to the end boards that you would have into like pure, where you can be a little bit more oppressive. But again, like this is more moving parts compared to something like Summon Limit. But obviously, like we can access this one easier than Summon Limit. So I guess there's that. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this card.
Something
I
that Jeff and I talked about
think it's not
earlier is like something that Jeff and I talked about earlier is also like I think Jeff I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but I think like it started off where we were talking about like it going first, and then I think we ended on some middle ground of it was probably better going first than I was making it out to be, and a little worse going first than you were making it out to be, and then we both agreed, oh, going second, this card's just game. Like go right, like going second, if you summon this card, like the game is over.
Yeah, because it goes to the point where when going second, like if you get to play through your opponent's field, like say they have like 2 monsters, 2 back row, you start playing through it, and then surprise, you summon Protos, banish 3 from graveyard.
Call fire, game is over.
Call fire, destroy their monster, attack. They can't play any cards next turn,
Yeah.
and then they lose.
Yeah, like so, and that's what I'm actually okay with a card like that, where it's like I think it's like when you really, really, really think about it, a card like Protos feels almost like the natural evolution of like the chaos monsters of like in 2005 summoning BLS on turn 17 was game. You know like if you play through everything and then you go okay BLS attack, oh wow that's like 4,000 damage, all right I win. And now it's like that doesn't cut it anymore, right? But now it's like okay I played through all your stuff, all right Protos, call fire, all your guys are dead, you can't summon guys back, I win. And it is like funny that that's how those effects have like kind of escalated, but I definitely think I truly think going second is the best application of this card.
No, I can get behind
it's
that.
obviously like
you're setting up
it's
quite
obviously like strong going first. However, I think the reason I don't think necessarily this card will do as well as people are thinking initially is if you want this in your main deck, it means you're playing some combination probably of other Nemesis guys, like the level 1 or the Pyro one, and then you're
playing corridor.
Yeah, and then you're playing a rank 4 engine, which means not many decks just naturally make rank 4s anymore. You're probably playing some weird engine like Parallel Exceed or something like that. So you're dedicating some space and some cards to the rank 4 engine. You're playing the rank 4, the Searches flag. You're just playing Bonfire and Searching Flag, which means you're Bonfire Searching Flag and not like a regular card for your deck. And then you're summoning Protos, and then you're calling fire, and then you're hoping your opponent is playing the fire deck. Which, as we've talked about previously, a lot of people are just not. Like, as good as this deck is, it didn't get hit. Like, look how well a bunch of other decks have been doing. Like, Voiceless is very popular and will only get better with the next set because they're getting more cards. It's like, what do you do when you do like and the fire deck itself, as I was saying, in the actual fire deck, which is so some, I guess the paradox of this card to me and the way people are describing it is in my deck that is already playing Bonfire, which the only deck that's doing that really is variants of the Snake Eyes deck. I can just search flag and make Protos and call fire, and then my opponent loses. So, like, that means in your fire deck, like, that's assuming you're playing fire, and then it's assuming that nobody plays anything but fire. And then if that's the case, if you play any deck that's not fire, you just win because everyone else on these fire decks is only playing effects that interact with the other fire. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't quite add up for me. Where like
so
you do all this, your opponent just goes.
We always use like we're talking about this in a kind of like a vacuum. Like, oh, well, they could not be playing fire. Well, they could be this or that. At the end of the day, the only purpose for this card is to make sure your opponent does not have a turn. Which is my problem with it. Yes, it might not function the best right now, but that's the only use it has. And we always go on tangents of why these kind of cards just not exist.
I think this card's better going second. That's why I think this card is fine to exist going second. I guess
its only purpose though is to make sure your opponent cannot play any cards. That's the only purpose of this card. It's its only effect that's relevant. Is that it destroys and then your opponent cannot activate or summon any cards. And if we're talking about things that like summon limit, where that let your opponent not play cards. This just still falls under all of these as well. And I mean, if you have this card in your deck and you make it further into a tournament, it gets better as you go into a tournament more because you know what your opponent's
Oh,
playing.
that one.
If you know
That
if you
one
know
I
you're
will
going
agree with.
into a voiceless deck, you can just call light or whatever. So I mean,
so I guess again, like how do you get all these attributes? Like they have to be on the field, and I know you can use the extra deck, but like what commonly played light extra deck monster is there? How are you doing all of these things? I guess is what I'm saying. Like I think there's a lot of deck building. I think that there's a lot of deck building that goes into all of this that I don't think it's quite as simple as like, you know what I mean? I will say, haha, you can always call dark. Right? And like that's something that I still think is like weird. And that's the biggest weakness that Escados has, and why Escados was never as good as Protos is the only thing Escados can naturally call is dragon. And most of the ways that you can search Escados involve playing a dragon deck and involve killing all your own dragons, and that's why that card was never really good, because it usually meant you could not play more than your opponent couldn't play. Protos, in a deck that does not rely on dark monsters, can call dark. It does not hurt you at all, and then your opponent cannot play darks. Darks are a very famously always strong type. Right now, we're in this weird pocket of fire monsters being really good, and ironically, the card that searches Protos is a fire monster. But then, again, I guess I'm just keep falling back to, like, what deck is playing it. But, like, yes, I do agree with you in that obviously, it is a razor-thin margin of this card being extremely, extremely toxic. And this card being the fantasy land going second board breaker that I want it to be, that can like actually reward you for going second and playing, you know, all these, you know, like breaking through the opponent's board and then finding a way to Protos and then clearing all their board, because that's where I think it was best in Sword Soul still also, is going second. Sword Soul was really good at like picking apart the board, like, because all these cards they would play would pretty much demand interaction because they were so efficient and they were so good at picking through boards.
Stuff like special summon Vashuda, bounce.
Yeah, and like Bashia force their back row or force their other interaction. Okay, great. Protos, call, win, whatever. Who cares? Whatever you have.
And, look, you know. There's your light monster, Baxia.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yes. In the Sword Soul deck, yes. In the Sword Soul deck, yes. There's your light monster. And yeah, like whatever the Tenyi is. But yeah, I think I think a lot of people will oversimplify this card, just throw it in their deck, and it will be terrible. And they won't understand why. And like, yes, this card has potential to be extremely, extremely, extremely strong. I'm not going to deny that. I just do not think it is not as, like, the people that are like, they banned summon limit and they brought back a better summon limit. And like, no,
no. Definitely not.
Like,
definitely not. That's summon limit that can be effect failored. Like,
yeah, summon limit that can be effect failored, and you have to guess correctly and like set up it's. But yeah, I'm prepared to eat my words on this card. However, tentatively, I will say I don't think this will see nearly as much play as people are saying it will. But we will see. We will see how it goes. And then I guess the last thing I'll say on it, if it does become a problem, or not even becomes a problem, if it turns out that it's too easy to access, I'm not even 100% convinced that, like, I think it's probably a mistake to make these rank 4s that just search any card of a type. Like, I just don't know why they, like, I don't think Gallant Granite or King of the Fair Limbs or the Pyro one, like, should exist.
I think to make them so generic is the mistake.
Yes,
and
like, to make them just generic rank 4s.
Wow, making generic extra deck cards ends up being mistakes in the long run. Who would have fucking thought?
Yeah. All right. So that's Protos. Title. Who cares? I don't know how to say about Title. This card is not, like, I don't think the Dragon Rollers are even remotely good. I think, like, this is the one that could potentially be dangerous if what we have right now going on with fire monsters goes on with dark monsters, or goes on with water monsters, like in a year. Then, like, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, I think we all know how strong Foolish Burial is, so.
But yeah, I don't think this one is good compared to Title is in another dimension of power lower than Protos and Colossus and Kieran.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
I guess Colossus. I think this is also the funniest one the most generic way to make Thunder Dragon Colossus is to summon
Yes.
the
card.
Nemesis
Yeah.
corridor. Huh.
Crazy.
It's almost like inside you there are two wolves. They're both Nemesis flag. And like one of them searches Protos, one of them searches corridor and makes Colossus. And it's like, I think it is so funny to me that by doing this, they brought back both, and now like, yes, like more people can put flag and that card in their deck. Because I'm gonna argue, if you're just gonna do the Protos thing with the Nemesis cards going first, I think blind, it's better to just summon Colossus.
No, I agree.
Whether
with
or
that.
not that's even good,
Yeah.
but I think if your intention
Also,
is
you
like,
don't even have to like play the flag. You can just play corridor and then search it off that level 4 synchro monster.
yes, Cupid Pitch, yeah, which is
Cupid
also
Pitch, yes.
why
Mhm.
does that card exist? Oh God. Anyways, yes,
Mhm.
I do. Yeah. But I guess yeah, I think that's the other reason why I think Protos isn't even as like viable going first. Is just like, if you are truly going first blind and you're trying to leverage your rank 4 Nemesis card into something, or your guy that's just Nemesis flag, making Colossus is arguably just better blind. I'm still not even
Yeah, I
sure
mean,
that's that good right now. But
you can. I mean, we talked about yesterday how you just go look at the fire deck and it's 3 wanted, 3 ash, 3 fire rhoda, poplar. Like it starts down a
and
lot
a lot
of
of searchers.
summoning
Yeah.
it.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
And unless you draw imperm, I don't think you really have an out to it.
Yeah.
I would maybe argue that you could see more like anti decks, not necessarily like a pure Thunder deck or otherwise. Because I think if you try and put these cards into modern Snake Eye, you are still just playing into the whole issue of like hand traps, everything else. You're adding all these bells and whistles for like minimal return, because there's still no guarantee that you get to your endpoint, right? If you get to your endpoint, perfect. And I think like Maxi is obviously a reason why you don't see certain things like this in Japan, because like when it gets too convoluted and you're trying to add all the bells and whistles, have your more oppressive end board, there is Maxi plus a range of hand traps, and you just have a worse deck. You need every card to sort of be functional, and you might see that translate here. You might see more ignorant builds sort of like pop up for the first couple weeks. Maybe for Raleigh, people are happy to just play the silly versions of these decks with like Colossus. But I would definitely argue that you could just see someone do like generic deck. Their main goal is just like shifter, summon Colossus, go. Right.
Yeah,
And
I
that
said to Ryan earlier while you were asleep. I said you could realistically just lose to summoning Colossus with a hand trap and a back row, and you could just lose.
Yeah. For sure.
yeah, like you can play like like I said before, I said maybe not just like a Thunder Dragon deck, but I could even see that, like, just you play Thunder Dragon itself as like an engine. You have all of your Allure of Darknesses and stuff like that. I'm talking like aloof lupine sort of style version of this deck. Maybe not to that extent, because that card is just hand trap bait. But you would sort of look at it like, oh, this is just going to be like pocket engine of Thunder Dragon cards. My main goal is potentially Colossus plus Titan. If we want to play around Super Poly, maybe it's just Colossus, and then just like sort of protect the castle with Colossus and try and cheese wins against, like you said, there's Wanters, there's Bonfires, there's Snake Eye Ash, there's Poplar as well. Like it's all compounding as to like these cards at search in the best deck of the format. You can just lose. This is a potential strategy. This is on par with the runic stun decks, or even just the really crappy stun decks that seem to be doing well recently, that just have like Fossil Diner and like traps and stuff like that. I think this will be a nice change of pace. But yeah, like at the end of the day, this is no different to summoning Fossil Diner, right? If you really think about it.
And I will say that we have we do also have way more board interactive cards than we did when this card was last legal in the TCG. When this card was banned, we did not have Droplet, we did not have Tactics, we did not have, I guess Thrust doesn't really help against this card, but we didn't have drop. We barely had Dark Ruler. Did we even have it yet? I don't.
We did have Dark Ruler. We did
towards the end of it being legal. Like most of the time it was legal, we didn't have Dark Ruler, and then like kind of towards the end of it, And I think that's something that
there's also like the additional copies of like Super Poly that I think were relevant too. And then obviously you had like some external factors, like now who's to say that
Enemy
you won't
controller.
see more cards like
Yeah.
Change of
Oh,
Heart,
Change of Heart, Enemy
Econ,
Controller,
Change of
Mind
Heart,
Control's
Mind
at
Control,
Mind Control's
all
at 3.
compounding. Because
Yeah.
that I mean, like Mind Control was like another out that some of these
Fenrir.
decks would play, right?
Just
Fenrir.
Fenrir just
Fenrir
kills this
into
card.
Colossus has to just be the most disgusting thing possible.
Yeah.
You just leave.
Yeah. And
You
I'm not
just
yes,
leave
I'm
the
not
game.
I'm not saying that in a vacuum your opponent is summoning Colossus and then putting the other
It's always
5
getting
cards in their
contested by
hand in their
these
mouth.
cards. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, the last time this card was legal, yes, I'm not saying that your opponent's summoning Colossus and then eating the other 4 cards in their hand. Like, but I'm saying, like, we have way more powerful board interactive cards than we did the last time this card saw play. And it's like, not only just we have more, people are like skewing more towards them. And like we've seen a lot of decks that have done well recently, either maining or siding Econ, siding Mind Control, change, like all these cards that are just
Also, if you choose
steal.
to interact with your opponent, you can like tactics it.
Yes, you can tactics it, yeah. So like, which like tactics is a little worse because if you can't out Colossus, then they just don't activate anything, and then tactics is just another dead card. But yes, like if you have any way to interact at all, and your opponent's like, I guess I have to Ash that because you're drawing cards or whatever, or like I have to Valor that because it might, like summon Fender and they have to Valor. All right, tactics, you lose.
Yeah,
like, the game is over, right? And it's like, oh, like but this card's definitely strong. Like this card was banned for a reason, but I can think much similarly to Protos. I think this card is way, way, way more manageable. Also, one thing I will say just on this tangent, and something that you said, I don't even think when you said it, I don't think I even like 100% processed exactly what you said. But when you mentioned Protos' summon limit that can get Valored, it is so much easier to interact with monster-based floodgates than actual floodgates, because half the cards in your deck are interacting with your opponent's monsters anyway. And that's why these generic floodgates that collect summon limit are so broken, is because if you put cards in your deck to beat summon limit, they do not interact with anything else your opponent is doing. If you put Cosmic Cyclone in your deck to beat summon limit, 9 times out of 10, it will not have any function other than summon limit. Yes, in this exact instance, like sometimes it interacts with something that Flamebirds puts in their back row.
Like the whole Mystic Mind thing. Like you couldn't have spell and trap removal in your deck because it was terrible versus all the decks. And then if you had if you drew it into your opponent's monster board, it was just a dead card. You needed all your cards to beat your opponent. Like
yes, my opponent has, however many copies of Mystic Mind in their deck, and I am putting in 2 removal cards for the off chance that they're trying to stick it and they don't potentially try to kill me, right? Like that's just what it came down to. And then it ended up being this race with like very egregious numbers on either side of like percentage chance this deck plays terraforming, like, oh cool, 4 copies of Mystic Mind, I play 1 Imperial Order, this is my out to Mystic Mind. Like, do I put it in my deck? Probably not.
And I just think that like all the other also hand traps can stop these monster floodgates from being summoned, and they like can't stop summon limit from being flipped, right? And I think that's something that people are neglecting considerably. It's just that like the cards that you're already putting in your deck on purpose just also interact with these cards. And I think that's super important to realize, is that like your deck already is playing, like, your deck's probably already playing Imperm. It's already probably siding Change of Heart or Tactics or whatever, like, or Mind Control. Like, it's probably, these cards are probably already in your deck in some capacity for a lot of people.
On the other side of the coin, though, I think something that is a big thing to remember with cards like Protos and Colossus is like, if they're not the focal point of what your deck is doing, they're usually just like another layered point of interruption that happened like at the end, right? Like you aren't leading with Protos, you aren't leading with Colossus. These are more,
you specifically
like,
cannot lead with Protos. Yes, like
so
you specifically can.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm saying, so like yes, like you can hand trap these cards, like Colossus, obviously different sort of thing.
Yeah.
But more to the point of like, you have to hand trap the stuff at the beginning. And then the fact that Protos and Colossus do have the ability to just get, pooped onto the board if you draw X card without, like playing and searching it, I think is like the other negative, right? To bringing cards like this back. Because it's like, well, this isn't the Thunder Dragon deck getting a buff. It's like, there will be a world where like the combo deck, like you guys said, will, play the corridor or something. And now it's just like, well, I hand trapped him a bunch of times here. I have all engine, he Colossus me at the end, right? Or like the Protos thing is like, he hard drew Protos, or he hard drew Nemesis guy, and like we're just like
And I
back to
think
square
that's
one,
my
right?
biggest problem with, and it always has been with Thunder Dragon Colossus, is that this card at its best is not in the Thunder Dragon deck, and that's really frustrating for me.
Sure, that's true because it's
If it
too
was
generic.
just Thunder Dragon playing this card, it's
Yeah.
fine because it's a deck built around it. It's
Yeah.
not just some
Our Thunder
splash
Dragon
thing.
deck in 2019 was not a Thunder Dragon
No,
deck.
it was not. No, it was a danger deck that had a couple Thunder cards in it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would argue it was more of a Dragon deck if you think about it. We walked so Shuping could run. Yes.
Damn, sorry, that distracted me from what I was going to say. Keep going. Sorry, I'm gonna remember what I was talking about in just a second.
Little bro, I think we might be good. I think we talked about Colossus for too long.
Okay, yeah. Last thing I want to say about, again, just final touch on the whole like monster floodgate versus small trap floodgate thing. And again, the reason these floodgates, haha, I put Cosmic Cyclone in my deck. Oh no, you didn't draw Summon Limit. Now this card is useless and it's a dead card. These cards you're putting in to beat Colossus or to beat these other cards. If your opponent doesn't play Colossus or doesn't do this combo to play Colossus, oh no, I do Change of Heart going second. Whatever will I do? Maybe I'll activate it and have it be probably good. You know, these cards will have application as opposed to the spell and trap removal cards which is another reason why I like cards like Pancratops. Pancratops doesn't beat Colossus, I know, or Protos. Anyways, but a card like that, you know, Fenrir does it, whatever. And then I also think they did a good job of waiting to bring these back until they got rid of Baron and Savage. Because I think putting a Colossus next to a Baron is where I flip the table, right? Like, that's where it just gets like, oh, now nothing is, you know, like, whatever. But, all right, Kieran. Sure, right? Like, the game is long since
how
power
many
crept.
Kierans there are in the game now.
Yes, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Magispector Unicorn.
Matt came into my room today and was like, I put a Kieran on the table for you. I'm like, why? I already have Kieran in my deck. And he looked at me and he's like, well, in case it goes up and you need it. And I was like, why would Kieran go up? And so I'm like, I have Fire King Kieran. It's in my deck. What do you do? Why do you put more on my deck?
Registration.
Wants
to know your location.
Yes. And so, yes. Now I have Magispector Kieran on my desk, and I will not be playing this deck.
No, I accidentally registered Magispector Kieran instead of Fire King
Fist,
High Kieran something.
Yeah.
But good one.
I think we've
look, man.
long power
I don't think this will
card.
do anything. I've looked at the new Magispector cards. I don't think like this really facilitates anything. It's whatever.
Pendulum has the same problem it's always had. Now it can't make Omni negates to protect from Nibiru.
Actually, dude, you know, I have been like on Master Duel every time we've been playing like Duelist Cups and stuff like that. I will lose to a Pendulum deck. But it is so ridiculous to think. This is something that I didn't really touch on with the Baron one because this just came to me then when you brought it up. They are just able to make Baron so easily.
Before they even
it is disgusting. And the Pendulum, and you just cheat it. They just cheat it out for nothing. And I'm sitting here, I'm looking, I'm like, okay, cool. I guess. And then like obviously they have like the Starving Venom stuff, like whatever. Like that's a crazy one to me. It's just like tier 7 deck, as we brought up before. It's just like summons Baron, like first action. You look at your hand, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like
additionally,
once in a blue moon, like the sun has aligned. There's been a total eclipse and all of that stuff.
Now that other than Appaloosa, which Appaloosa is a whole other thing. I think the investment to make Appaloosa is way higher than the investment required to make like Baron or whatever. But we'll talk about that, I guess.
Well, yes, 4 monsters versus.
Four. Yeah. So yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yes. I think another thing about all of these cards coming back is now without any response when you have a level 3 tuner, level 7 monster, or a level 1 tuner and a level, whatever, and you have to Nibiru early. Now that the odds of you having to Nibiru preemptively at all are much lower, or because quite literally only one card generically negates Nibiru now, which is Appaloosa, as opposed to it was possible they could have Baron and Savage and Appaloosa or whatever. If you have Nibiru plus Imperm or Nibiru plus Valor, or sometimes just Nibiru, there is nothing they can do to force you to use it preemptively. And for these decks that are just going, for Protos or whatever, it's like you Nibiru them on the Protos. You Nibiru them after they summon Colossus. Colossus is limited. They cannot make another one. You know, they've used all of their cards. Like they're just throwing additional cards into your Nibiru. It's like I think we're gonna see some people get really, really punished for greedy combo decks that was not possible in the past because of how
All right, hear me
easy
out.
it was
Is that
to make
I
these
think
cards.
that I don't know if I said this to you or Max earlier. The last 2 days have been kind of a blur, but I think this reinforces the fact that Crossout Designator becomes a more popular card because now you cannot play around Nibiru.
Yeah, maybe
and
we'll see that
now,
card get hit then on
and
the
now,
next if
yeah,
that's what ends up happening. You know?
yeah. So now, like, I think it'll feel even worse. I'm like, oh, I know they can't play around this Nibiru. I'm going to Nibiru them, and then surprise cross out, and then you're very sad.
But then also, I guess something that punishes you for making a deck that's like, I'm gonna put Nibiru and not play more hand traps because you only need Nibiru something, and they have cross out, and it's like, okay, you know, like it's again, I'm just gonna say it's slightly more layers than that, but I know what you're saying, and I agree with you.
You literally
in
can
that.
play these decks that are basically
Yeah.
combo decks and have Nibiru and cross out, and then
Yeah.
right now they're
Yeah.
better than
No, I
they're
agree.
better than combo decks, and
Yeah.
you get to have them all
Yeah.
in the same deck.
Yeah, I'm not saying cross out like won't be good. It's just like because there's no real pairing to like protect your hand trap from cross out, I guess. Other than like a preemptive Lancia, which is insane. You'd be insane for that. if you like your opponent has their board, you just randomly go Lancia and they go okay, and then you go Nib and they're like, you know, like I guess, man, like I guess that's what that is, but that's not a real consideration. Yeah. Kieran also just gets nibbed. Funnily enough, that doesn't.
Yeah, well, that's what I say. Like the
Yeah.
pendulum deck, the pendulum deck is just a Nibiru. They can't do anything.
Yeah,
So,
and they
good
can't.
point.
And that's a deck you might not even have enough cards that you can comfortably even play cross out, right? Just because you
yeah,
need
sure,
scales,
Madness
like,
Specters maybe because now one card gets you everything, but
and they might not even
like
summon
a
5
pendulum
times.
pile.
You might not even have to. You might just like make the link and like summon a Kieran and like have a guy and just be like, all right, it might be okay. I don't know.
Well, now you have like an Xyz monster that's like.
Oh, I
good.
forgot.
You
I forgot
need-
they got that guy too. Yeah, you got to make
But-
everything. Yeah, you're right.
And because Xyz monster, like in other cards, also let you search for the other broken field spell,
Mhm.
Secret Village. So,
Yes.
so they're gonna try to like Secret Village and Kieran you.
Yeah,
And
that's a good one. That's
Yeah,
a strong
yeah,
combination.
I guess. No.
That's just
This is
Antispell
not
fragrance.
summon limit,
But,
Kieran. Haha.
yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Oh,
I
well.
guess some of them
Alright,
Kieran is
chicken game.
gross. That is disgusting.
Nah,
That one is crazy.
No more Kieran talk. This
Yeah.
it's just gonna be
Yeah.
unplayable.
Yeah.
Chicken game, same thing. Like we haven't seen people put Upstart in that deck. Like, is there anything that chicken game facilitates?
Yeah, I think the main difference between Chicken Game and Upstart Goblin is like just field spell support, right? Like Ancient Fairy Dragon,
Yeah.
like other like set rotation, terraforming. That card's still legal, maybe. I
yeah,
don't remember.
It's
not
been a minute.
in
It's only
Master
Master
Duel.
Duel it's
Yeah,
banned, right?
so that card might still be
Yeah.
legal.
You
Yeah.
can still play it in OCG.
Yeah. Okay.
So part of me thinks maybe you could see this card. Okay, so it's kind of reaching because we have seen traditional Snake Eye go above 40 to fit all non-engine and engine requirements. But the one thing that I have noticed, and this is something we saw out of Master Duel because it's its own pocket format, is that the unicorn stuff facilitating birth, and it gave you an extra card to send. So maybe there is an argument that like activate chicken game, send it for Snake Eye Ash or something. And like, look, that's not going to do as much, but if you do get to a streamlined like 39 card deck, like at that point you probably would have just had Upstart. Like Japan maybe would have just done it anyway. But maybe that's something to consider. Maybe you can look at something like set rotation, and like it's all sort of compounding, right? Maybe the Fire King Snake Eye deck could utilize set rotation as like a form of removal for Fire King Island in the mirror match, and you have like your own Fire King Island plus like chicken game or something. Like who knows? There's maybe some depth to it. I don't think this card will do anything. I think outside of it going to 3 and being used in some stupid FTK deck, I don't think this card is particularly healthy for the game. But there are little like nuanced things that I think this card will do that Upstart won't do. Yeah, like this is like another card that I just think probably just no one will give a shit about. Like people will buy it out of FOMO, but it won't be played.
I
don't give a shit about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think one copy is the number that Chicken Game should have been at the whole time. I think when there's 3 and there's like pseudospace and multiple, because when this card came out, there was like multiple terraformings, chicken game, multiple pseudospace. Well, pseudospace is always multiples. 3 Upstart Goblin, and you could play essentially like a 28 card deck, you know, or you know, like something like that. And it's like, yeah, that's probably problematic. However, I think when you put chicken game at 1, it still provides the utility of the field spell searching cards, like all the cards that interact with it. You know, set rotation, terraforming, ancient fairy dragon, all that stuff. Metaverse, I guess. Like your opponent's attacking you for a game and you chicken game in Metaverse. Now you can't take battle damage. That's hilarious. That's a fun thought, but you know, not really good now. But I think like having 1 gives it that utility and gives it like if you're playing some wacky deck and you want a card like this, it's fine to exist. And then I think when you have it at multiples, specifically when it becomes problematic and you really go underneath the minimum deck requirement in like a not okay way. But I think this is fine and not even that good. Yeah. And that's what we talked about. All right, limited is done. Wow. Okay. Whew. Semi-limited Armageddon Knight. It's all is banned. Does this matter? What does this do? Anything?
Yeah.
I think this is a card that can tend to like. I feel like every card just does what Armageddon Knight does,
So I was about to
and
say,
it limits future card design, right?
When you look at the normal summons that exist right now, if they gave you the world, I think Armageddon Knight is fine.
Yeah.
I do feel like maybe we're past that point of like, yes, they know to not print stupid darks that we can send, you know, from deck to grave.
Yeah.
Right? Like that.
I think there are like also a lot of counters
Orcus.
to stuff like that now. Like if you have to normal summon this to send a dark monster to grave, I mean, we have things like Effect Veiler, Ash, Imperm, we have Bestials. Like there are lots of checks
Bestials
now.
make Armageddon Knight so much worse. I didn't even think about that. That's funny. Like specifically, like
Like the normal summon send malicious. You're like, I will Bestial that malicious.
And they go,
like, well, damn.
Yeah, that's
yeah, but that's the thing. Like I really like cards like Armageddon Knight and Grepher, and I think they have like very cool, very unique cards. But then again, future
we
card
never
design,
seen
and then
sending monsters to the graveyard before. Definitely unique.
Yeah, exactly. No, but that's what I mean. It's just like you are limiting future card design by having these cards be legal at, you know, more than 1 copy or something. Like you'll have a format where
dark
like
is generic enough that it was like, we have to be careful that, you know, we've had a lot of generic or like broken dark monsters, so better not print any good ones with graveyard effects.
I can't wait for them to do that, and then they have to put Armageddon Knight to 1 again, or ban it. Like who knows? But yeah, oh well, probably not gonna be played in anything.
I can't imagine it is. Yeah.
Nope, can't see it.
Pearly Delicious Memory going. This card was at 1. Now it is at 2.
I thought this was so strange because I didn't even think Pearly was that bad to begin with.
Yeah, it is weird to me. They would like buff. Like I don't. Like, why would they buff? Oh, they're getting reprinted Rarity Collection.
Yeah.
I think it's reasonable. I don't think this card has to exist.
Sure.
Same deal, right?
Yeah.
Well, like, okay, I think that this card is fine in like a vacuum when you look at Pearly, but it's like obviously Pearly now too far gone generates an oppressive like you know, big boss monster at the end of it, and this card also just makes it so you do find like lethal, or you make your guy big enough where nothing matters, and you can do that on like a 5-mat guy if you see like the weird combinations. Having multiple copies of this now, I think might be an oversight, but it's very possible it just does nothing. I agree with Jeff. I think Pearly is still a very good deck. But I think
for sure.
is
I
so...
literally, again, I play at locals because I like just going to have fun more than I like traveling to events and being stressed out about traveling. And I lost a Pearly the other week. I mean, yes, one of the games he activated Rivalry Warlords against me, but it was still Pearly cards, and you know, I could not deal with a 7 material Noir that drew 4 cards.
Yeah.
So I really don't think that deck is that bad. It also can use Shifter against decks that are also weaker against Shifter than itself.
Yeah, like I don't think
Dinkan Fam will constantly post on Twitter his updates with his like Pearly deck, and the amount of times like we make this joke in every chat where, you know, DKP is relevant, but it'll be my opponent made his end board, I killed him. And I'm just like, you know what? If there's any deck to do that, it is probably Pearly.
Yes, like I don't
And he
think
says it
putting
every
this
single time,
card-
and I'm like, he's making this deck look nice. Damn,
Yeah.
maybe we're neglecting something.
This
but
doesn't make
no.
Pearly like broken, but it probably wasn't bad. So like it's
Yeah.
weird they would make it, but it doesn't. It's whatever. Like it's fine. I don't really have much
I
opinion
think,
on this.
I mean, going for from a 33% chance to get that card off My Friend Pearly to 66 is
I think
like
it's big.
a
I think it's
super
very
crazy
big, yeah.
increase. I think it's bigger than you think, Ryan.
Yeah, I think it's very relevant, honestly. This lets you get to like big noir, right? That's like the
Yeah,
whole
way
thing
easier,
now.
way easier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have more combinations now. I think. Okay, so when stuff like this happens, I would like to ask the question to anyone from Konami that is listening, if you are listening, what changed? Tell me.
Yeah, like what about the environment
What-
made this card want to go from one?
Yeah, like did the numbers at the time when they felt it was appropriate to put this to 1? Okay, understandable. Now you're putting it to 2. Like, what are we hoping to achieve out of this outside of just like trying to push the rarity collection by putting? It's like, well, Pearly's not doing anything. Yes, no, Pearly's not doing anything because you did the incremental hits, right? Like, there's a
Yeah.
power creep plus, you had limited cards. Like, are you not doing research and development? Like, are you sitting at the table and like trying to find the difference between 3 copies, 2 copies, and 1 copy? No, I feel like they just looked at this and said, Pearly's getting reprinted. Let's put it to 2.
Probably,
And
right?
that's more disappointing. That is
Yeah.
probably the most that had happened regarding like the decision making for this card to go to 2. That's disappointing in that sense. But yeah, like I hope Pearly does something.
At the same
and then
time,
they
I don't
inevitably
think
put this
Pearly
to
is.
1.
I don't think this makes Pearly the best deck. So I guess
I
it's
I
fine.
agree. I agree with that. I agree with
Like
that.
Pearly is good, but it's not the best deck. So it's
Hmm.
okay to make it slightly better? Question mark.
For
Is
me,
that-
it's
is
more
that-
more of the
Whatever.
decision making
Yeah, no,
for a card like
you
this.
were worried more
specifically.
about
So
the
feel like this
macro.
I
just
like
takes
the
their spots.
Pearly cards, but I think it is an extremely frustrating deck to play against.
Sure.
Because when it has a field spell that says you can't interact with them most of the time if you don't have imperm on the first card, and you can't use Nibiru on the deck at all, and you just have to sit. And before it was fine, it was manageable because the format had things like Book of Moon, and you could counter the Pearly cards very easily, and the combos where you flip the trap in the draw phase and draw extra cards. That's not the case anymore. If they get to the trap card, they get to draw 4 cards and have an untargetable card that gets rid of 2 to 3 cards. I think it's a very frustrating deck to play against. When the deck is good, but not good enough to have the meta be revolved around playing cards around it. So like when you get paired into it, it's just another deck that like you can't do anything against sometimes. And I think that is very, very annoying. And rant.
Yes. Although I will say I don't think this changes its ability to do that. Is I guess my like it. You know what I mean? Like it could always do that, and like it still does that. I guess.
And now it does that easier, which is why I think it's frustrating.
Yeah, that's true.
I would have rather them give them more of that card and less of the draw one. Like
sure, which they sort if you like really I guess like sort of they put the draw one to 2 lastless, but then they just put this one back to 2. I don't know. Now we have both Sleepy and Delicious at 2, and that's the only hits.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, a little bizarre. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll lose to Pearly round 1 of Raleigh, and then next episode I'll go, wow, I hate Pearly, and then it'll all come full circle. For the unlimits, these are I don't know if I'd call exciting, but this is 3 cards going from 2 to 3. That's fun. Destiny Hero.
I enjoy
Malicious.
these. I think these are some nice.
Enjoy
nice
all of
ones.
these cards. Yes.
Yeah.
Except for me. I mean, I did very well with Sky Striker, but I'm not sure how big of a fan of.
Yeah,
Engager
that
3
one.
I am,
that
but-
one. I less for Striker, more for the generic stuff. But anyway, let's start. Ryan, let's run it.
Malicious at 3. Isolde's banned. I don't care about this one as much as I thought I would. I think Isolde
I think this
is really
card
the
is
enabler.
going to 3 to enable the in the next set, the national set. There is a level 6 deck called Fiendsmith, and they revolve around rank 6s, and also can make Beatrice. That card will probably be banned eventually, also.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things in that deck can use malicious. So I think some of this has to do with Isolde's banned, but also this makes Fiendsmith better.
Sure.
That's probably fine. I'm okay with that, honestly.
Something to note, and I did see, like, I didn't think that this would actually mean anything, but some of the people that, I like hero purists, were making the point that, like, having the extra copy of malicious is, like, pretty relevant, because now you're just generating, like, all of these other free bodies on top. When people are throwing hand traps at you that aren't Nibiru, it does tend to, like, let you do more than you would normally be able to do in the hero deck. Like, that could be relevant later down the line, potentially. Hero does have a lot of good cards, but Hero's biggest issue is the fact that it is not putting up a negate. So
yeah, and it
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah,
because
like-
it's locked into heroes the whole turn.
exactly,
in
yes.
its
Until
current
they
form.
release the Hero negate, yes.
Yeah, then it will be
But
over.
yeah, like-
If they
like-
ever do that, that deck will
They're-
actually be insane. If they ever make it
Their
modern, it's just...
their stuff is all removal based. You have like
Yeah.
DPE and I don't know. They have like a fusion trap card that lets you like blow up all your opponent's monsters.
Yeah.
like Dark
stuff
Law,
like that.
Acid,
And they have
Absolute
Dark
Zero.
Law. Yeah, well, there's a new one, like a Shining Flare Ultimate Wingman.
Oh yeah, Shining Neos,
Utop-
Wingman.
Yeah.
Whatever, times 1 billion different card names or whatever. And
But I do take solace in the fact that, like, this deck's, like, archetype, like, tribal specifics are, just like getting a soft buff by this card going to 3, even though that's obviously not the intention. But, like, some people will be very happy with this. I think that is probably, like, that and the Fiendsmith stuff is all you can take away from this. I don't think this is going to be doing anything in other decks at all. We saw it in Terrelament, and that deck is still, significantly watered down. The counters are identical to the Snake Eyes stuff, so it's just not, like, as well positioned as it was in that nice little pocket we had last year. So I don't know, like, how I feel about this. I think this is another card that I could easily see them put back to 2, or 1, or something in that capacity if it does become an issue. Because I don't think they'll ban Beatrice, but I want them to. So we'll see.
I'm hoping this nudges them in the right direction to ban Beatrice.
Yeah, definitely.
Orcust Harp Horror also went to 3. Armageddon Knight. Perhaps my Armageddon Knight deck will send Malicious or Harp
Bro,
Horror.
tell me what this does. Tell me what any of these cards do, because are you telling me you have 50 different ways to access Harp Horror when it is at 1? Now you have 52, because you can draw it with orchestrated return. Like, but like, are you like, is this compensating for like bestials? Like, where are we at here? Because I think this at 3 is logical. I don't think it does anything. I don't think it pushes this deck further ahead at all, because it's just the same deck. You're just giving it 2 extra cards that you don't want to draw a lot of the time. You just want to have the option to access it in deck once it's already in rotation and it's been activated and it's doing
I think the
stuff.
versions of this deck I've seen, you do kind of want to draw that, because they are all playing the Horus cards.
The Horus,
so you just want to discard them and then get infinite.
I guess.
So I think like these little rogue, I think it's fine. Like, I think this is fine. You can play like a rogue Horus deck and do some neat stuff.
Well, for me, it's more of like, whenever these lists come out, the reason I like to poo-poo on certain cards coming back is solely to just, give people some perspective of, like, you don't have to go out and purchase this card at, some exorbitant price, because there's this, like, fear of missing out. If I don't get it now, it'll be double next week. And we see that trend happen, quite a lot with a lot of this stuff, right? And I genuinely think, that's why, like, all of these cards that have come back are not cards you have to rush to get. These are in a similar vein. Like, I think Yadagarasu was, like, the most ridiculous one. That card, unplayable. You could give me the opportunity to resolve it, 4 times in a game, and I still probably just think it's unplayable. No point, right? These cards now, I think, are doing something unique and different, and they are opening the possibilities for other decks. But I think there's a greater chance that, 1, they are reprinted, 2, they're not playable for a good period of time and won't make tournament results. And by extension, they will trickle down in terms of, like, market value, right? We'll see the prices just continuously go lower and lower until it's just like there. It's a deck that you can play for fun. It's fine, right? Or they're a problem card, they get banned again, right? Like, there's no real, like, in between. It gets really, really dicey. So. And, like, that's why it's just like, yeah, Harp Horror, cool. At 3 is probably logical. It wasn't doing anything at 1. It's probably not going to do anything at 3. You can play your pet deck, but don't go out and be like, I have to get Harp Horror now. I need the 2nd and 3rd copy.
Speedroid Terror Top.
I'm a big fan of this card,
Me too.
But it just has no uses.
Is Invoker still banned?
I'm going to ask, what does it do now?
Is
Like,
Invoker still banned in TCG?
do you know what's absolutely crazy? Do you know they give the Speedroid deck Terra Top, and then they ban Baron?
Yes.
Hilarious.
No. I saw that.
but
I saw people posted on that. They were
actually,
like, now my
literally.
now my Speedroid deck doesn't have Baron. And I'm like, just so we went earlier, it's like, now my tier 7 deck doesn't have Baron. It's like,
No, but like
yeah.
that's the funny thing, right? Like, do you think that was in the back of the head when they were doing these? It's like, okay,
no, I don't think that was in the back.
No. I don't think it was the case either. I think it was
same
like
thing with Link Kribo. Like, there are people like, oh, my Cybers deck doesn't have Link Kribo anymore, so I can't go make Link Kribo and summon Parallel Exceed from hand. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, like.
Yeah, I don't want. You know what? I don't want you to do that.
You said Cyber's deck. Wait, who's making Link Kribo in those decks?
You know what? Don't. People on Twitter.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it'd be a shame if I made Lingeribo, Almar. Oh my god, it keeps
also,
going. Anyway,
anima points up, not down, so you can't just parallel exceed with it. That's relevant. We didn't talk about that.
No, I mean, yes,
cool.
like that is definitely relevant. But like, if you are playing parallel exceed in a deck like that, like surely
you have more
you can get to like you can get to an Almirage stat line, right? Yeah.
Hopefully.
No.
Yes.
I would like to see if Terra Top does anything. I don't think it does, right? I think Cherubini is another card that is just like very silly. And this is one card Cherubini. However, we had one card Cherubini since, World's End. Like, we just have all of these extra level 3 extends that don't do anything.
Without normal summoning. This is the best level. This is the Terra Top is the best level 3 engine of all time. I agree with that. Like I don't even think it's possible for them to make one better unless it did what Terra Top did and also draws a card. Like, I do not know how you can make a level 3 engine better than this.
So to me, there's some cool stuff, right? I don't necessarily think any of these will be good, but like, if you're listening to this, like, food for thought, just looking at old formats and how like some of these cards function, I do think there is a world where you can use Terra Top to make something like Denlong, and then use that to bridge your plays into, the ability to search Protos or the ability to make Colossus or something in like a pile deck, maybe utilizing like the adventure engine, stuff like that, right? And like Terra Top, well, actually Terra Top doesn't work with the brave stuff because you would have to normal summon the tuner. But anyway, like, it's besides that, like, it's the ability to do multiple things with Terra Top, I think, is the coolest part of it. Yeah, no,
you can still do it, right? The tuner doesn't
Terra Top's a 3, and you have to manipulate the level, right?
Oh, you have to manipulate the level. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Is there no level 2 Speedroid
the
tuner that you can just search?
I don't believe
whatever, sure.
But like that's what I mean. Like, when I look at a card like Terra Top, I just at a baseline, you default to like, I'm gonna make a rank 3.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a link 2 that takes 2 level 3s. Like, you're sort of like, again, going down the line, you look at it. But that's why my default was, if Terra Top comes back to 3, like, what does the Speedroid deck do? They have a lot of like custom cards, essentially. You read them, you look at them, you're like, there is no way that this card should have been printed.
Well,
like, this card literally has 5 effects.
To use your own words, the actual Speedroid deck has now gone from 50 ways to summon Terra Top to 51.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 50.
So,
exactly.
like,
right. So like, yeah, like, did we do anything else? Probably not. Like, yeah, you're right. You know what? I just talked myself out of it. There's no even looking at it. Who cares? It just doesn't make it.
Yeah.
Like, Terra Top make Ib, huh? All of these nice cards that are getting unbanned that we could have played in like 2019 in our ignorant combo deck before Nibiru. It's like, who cares? Now, just throw it away.
And now we can't even negate Nibiru.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot harder.
Unless you draw cross out.
Or summon Appaloosa, but yeah.
That's it.
I think this has to be the most impactful unlimit, is engage at 3. And again, engage at 2 versus engage to 3, like 51 to 52 cards to search it. Yeah, but this is now like becomes way more reasonable to play this generically, right? Like, it's way more reasonable.
Yeah, we talked about this before. We're like, the difference when you're splashing a card, the difference between 2 and 3 is like pretty big when you have to play cards that are like not as good on their own. Like, playing, what is that, like a Widow Anchor on its own is not as good.
Yeah, it significantly
when you have 2 engage in your deck.
Yeah.
And playing Terra Top with 2 Terra Top and 1 Tuckatomborg is definitely not as good when you're splashing it.
Again, and it also, goes down to like the Armageddonite and stuff like that. It's like, how many cards do we want to remain in our deck, and how many cards do we want to see before we see that card specifically? And I think the number of 2 to 3, like you said, most relevant possible, and especially with a card like Engage, because Engage just like has a greater return than I think any of the other cards here.
Being at multiples, because you can draw another copy when it's at 3, right? Way more consistently.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
So I pose the question, like, do you think there is a world where Sky Striker could exist? Do you think Sky Striker has playback into Fire King? Who knows?
I do not
Maybe.
think the pure Sky Striker deck is playable against so many of the modern cards. I also think Abyssal on Ray is so much value.
Sure.
Like I
Yeah.
truly think so many of these incidental cards are way too efficient into just a pure Sky Striker deck.
The last time I played
you
against
know.
pure Sky Striker, my opponent like crashed his Hayate into a monster and was going to bring back Ray, and I was like, I will bestial that Ray, and he lost on the spot. Like it was.
It's like I'll
Well, he would
attack.
get a
okay,
he
I'll
would get a
wish-
replay anyway,
yeah,
right?
but then he has no Ray.
Yeah,
Then he can't do
that
anything.
too.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah,
If
And
that's
then
the only
he
play
has to
he has,
Hayate
yes,
a Ray
yes.
again, and then it does nothing, and then
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah. He was going to like dump engage, add back engage with special something. I don't know what it was, but it was very
Sure.
much like
Yeah. It's like, yes, it's and then now he has to deal with Drew's Worm or Magnamut or whatever. You know, like the actual like it's not just DD Crow where it's like an even exchange.
I get that. I
Yeah.
understand that. Just the way it was
it's like, oh,
worded.
now there's
you know,
another
come on,
body
deal.
I have to deal with.
Yeah, that I
it was
still
like,
can't
it's
do,
like
yeah.
Magnamut searching at end phase, like.
Hey man, traditionally, the more bodies you had on board, the more likely it was that Striker would kill you. Think about it.
Yeah. Not in
Yeah.
the battle
There's
phase
also
when they're attacking with
Anti-Scarlet
Hayate.
I will
That's
Widowmaker
true.
I
steal
know.
chain Widowmaker attack. Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
And it was that one and
I
and
don't know,
Order's
man.
ban.
Could be.
Although Summon Limit's ban, which
Yeah.
is how that deck won a lot also. So
Yeah,
here we
decent
are.
chunk, right? They don't have any like floodgates that really open it up for themselves now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like Shark Cannon's like pretty good against like the Fire King deck.
Oh, for sure.
Stuff like that.
That's what I was like trying to piece together, because like I feel like that Sky Striker deck itself, it was at its best when it didn't have to fill itself with hand traps, right? Because
Yeah, it's best I think as a going second deck, and I think because you like I think going first is terrible, like some almost always. But I think the problem with going second decks is like those decks are never good. People always talk about them every time, and they are never.
They're
successful.
so rarely good. Yeah, they're like.
Yes.
It's been so long since someone's actually done like very very well with one. Yeah.
my Tenpai opponent in shambles when I load up going second Sky Striker and win the roll. You can go
Right.
first. Oh god, stop breathing heavily.
Yeah,
For
Tenpai can definitely like get away with it. Because they
Their card quality is just so ridiculous. Like we'll go over that at some point.
Yeah,
but,
we'll
they
probably
kill you with
actually-
one card. Dude.
Yeah.
Sky Striker's not killing you with one card. So
Sky Striker is searching Forbidden Chalice with one card. That's what they're doing. Very different. Yeah, we're definitely gonna talk about Legacy Destruction probably next week, but we'll see how that evens out. But yeah, I think that's the list. It was a pretty long one actually. Way more cards got hit than I thought to not hit any fire cards, to be honest. Like in the context of no actual fire cards were hit, they changed a lot of cards. So I guess quick recap all in all, how do you like it? I actually like this list. Again, I'm prepared to eat my words in that maybe it gets boring and like fire is just still so good and whatever. But tentatively, I like the direction they went with this, and I hope to see similar things like this in the future.
yeah, I'm big fan of the list. Still really not happy about Albion and Shifter being around, but I mean, I will take what I can get when it comes to this list. Usually I can say every list we always go, this is whatever. If this is the first time around, like this is not whatever. This is like a huge deal.
Yeah, this is a huge deal. Yeah, like a lot has changed. A lot has changed, not just for this format, but for every format going.
It's like
forward.
the overarching Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole, right?
Yes. Bohdan, thoughts?
Hello. I think I do not like I would like to really look at this as like again a band-aid list. We've gone over these before. I think this covered the main issues that people had with the format without directly hitting anything. And I feel like we saw this during Tour format when they had that one list that banned Mystic Mine, and just like did all the incremental hits. I thought I thought that was like fine for where we were at. Some people really do still enjoy the Snake Eye format itself. I myself personally would like a little bit more in terms of like diversity, but with a more level like playing field in terms of power level. Because
Because
what
right
I
now
think
it's like
will
you play Snake Eye or you play your deck to be very anti-Snake Eye. It's like
yeah, yeah. But like, is it going to get worse after the new set comes out? Potentially. Is it going to get worse after subsequent set comes out? Potentially. Is it going to get worse after set after that comes out? And I think like if you do look at these sets coming out, like what's being released, you have Tenpai. It does its ridiculous thing, like it kills you with 36,000 damage through its own pot of prosperity. You know, you have the Ritual Beast, the Infernoid, like all of these cards now, like on the surface look like, oh, hey, it's Ritual Beast, like who cares? But like, no, like these decks go infinite and just sit there, and like the gameplay experience isn't that fun. Like it's like I've said before, there is a very weird like aggregate power level of like just every Yu-Gi-Oh deck now is doing something ridiculous, and I think what they've done is good because what it does is it pushes that power level down, you know, as we go, like ever so slightly. Banning Baron removes the chance that you will lose to the random deck that is comboing you out and just summoning, you know, Baron Savage something, right? And like, sure, it's just the benefit that the best deck, you know, did that happen circumstance to have everything else, you know, lose those cards by extension. The problem is when there's like key neglects, you have people who are like, oh, ban the Snake Eye cards, ban the Snake Eye cards. It's like, I don't care if the Snake Eye cards exist. Just make it so everything is like not basically generating an FTK turn one. I'll be all for it. You know, make it so I don't have to play 15 hand traps. Make it so my only other option isn't, you know, just playing like a runic deck with stun card. You know what I mean? Like, just give me something to work with here without feeling like I'm constantly behind without playing a deck like Snake Eye. Just, I don't know how they're gonna do it, and I think this is again the building blocks to, you know, the foundations are set. I would not be surprised if we saw a list, you know, again, depending on how the results of the upcoming YCSs go. But yeah, I don't know. Those are my thoughts, I think. I just think Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be too far gone, especially with all these releases coming up, especially into WCQ season. But traditionally, WCQ season has been the worst Yu-Gi-Oh! Possible.
It is
And I'm
sad that
sure
that's been
everyone
true
has
a
shared that
lot.
sentiment.
It is sad
Yes, it has
that's
been
been
true
that way a lot. I think the only one, I actually think last year, specifically last year, we just happened to get a list the day a new set was legal and before and a new set didn't come out before the WCQ, right? So the WCQ was actually the lowest power level event of the entire year, actually.
But you still have to deal with like rivalry, Mystic Mine, and everything else. But I feel like for the most part, like you were able to adjust to that format, and like it was very broad.
I'm talking about
Oh, sorry. No, you're right. 2023.
Yeah,
sorry,
2023,
man,
yeah.
dude. I forgot what year
I know. Yeah,
holy
no,
moly.
2022 was awful. 2022 was not good.
That's crazy. I thought 2023 was also
I
on
know.
cable.
Well, no. I'm just saying that 2023, I think, is like one of the only nationals formats that we've had where it did not feel like the absolute craziest high roll power level of the entire year.
Yeah.
Because a new set came out, a list hit the cards from that set, and then we didn't have a new set before the WCQ. So we had like one Arise Heart, you know, like no Super Heavy Samurai, you know, whatever. And it's like every other year, I feel like there's a list, then there's a set, and then there is no list in between. And then the WCQ is always just like the crazy high power level event of the year.
And now it's like 3 sets and something else.
Yeah,
and I feel like
there are going to be 2 to 3
everything in those
sets
is going to be so like we'll go over them, you know, over
sure.
time. Like once we have more information out of Japan for Infinite Forbidden, right? We'll go over like stuff like that, and just because like this is going to be your Nats season.
I think
and, you know,
only our WCQ has that legal. I don't think any other WCQ has it legal.
Euros is after your WCQ, so I think.
Oh, is it? Okay. For some reason,
I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was
yeah.
Euros, then your Australian one, and then ours.
The Australian one is the first one. Mine's in June.
That's crazy. Whoa.
Yeah.
Does yours have Terminal World? Or Terminal Battles of Legend, Terminal whatever? I don't know. Whatever. It might, but we'll see. Oh yeah, because there's
Battles of Legend, Terminal something. But
Terminal World. I don't remember. Terminal's Revenge. I'm pretty sure it's called. I'm actually
really
pretty sure it's called
Terminal Revenge.
I'm pretty sure it's called Terminal Revenge.
Okay.
Terminal Revenge is
Ryan, it comes out the week before my WCQ.
Okay, so it's legal for sure then. If it comes out the week before, Okay.
But we don't have Infinite. Is it even confirmed that you guys will have Infinite Forbidden?
It's not confirmed.
It's not confirmed, but on the website it is the legality.
I don't believe it's been like noted, right? I think because it comes out the week of the WCQ.
Yeah, but
the
we've had
legality
many
date
events.
is Yeah.
Like, we've had like 3 Battles of Legends sets come out the day of the WCQ, and they've all been legal. Like, Gumblar came out the day of the 2020, I think, came out the day of the 2018 WCQ. And I believe Zaphion the Time Lord came out the day of the 2017 WCQ, I think. I believe, maybe? I think it did anyway. I don't remember. I do know Gumblar just came out for 2018, though. Like, Gumblar, like, that had been out for a week or a day. Like, because half the people in the room didn't even know it was good. And that's not an exaggeration. I know that sounds fake, but I promise you, if you were there, half the people in that room who were playing Goki did not know Gumblar should have been in their deck. But here we are. That's all I think we've all covered everything on the ban list. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, thank you all for
Well,
joining
my
us.
internet just died mid thought process, but did we get confirmation? Just to clarify.
No, we did not.
No,
Okay, cool.
It's probably
the
legal.
only confirmation is the website says it's legal on this date.
And like the WCQ
okay.
web information doesn't say it's not, so it probably is.
So just casually, the one thing we really didn't notice, and I feel like this is something that has been, like quite unique to this list. I don't remember it happening any other instance. This ban list is legal a week before in North America on the 15th, and it is legal for Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Oceania the week after. And the reason is because there is the French Open on the weekend, like, well, this
same day
weekend.
as Raleigh. Yeah.
You mean so but that doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, I don't think
no.
I think that's
So like I would argue that potentially, like, from the perspective of like Europe, right? I think it definitely doesn't make sense to put a ban list out and have it like legal 5 days before an event. Right? I personally enjoy it. I think it does.
Both the US and Europe have events on the same day.
No. So I'm saying more from Europe's perspective. I agree with that one more from like a player experience, right? I did see a lot of people complaining on like Twitter, Facebook, otherwise saying, "Wow, all of my testing means
people
nothing."
just like to complain. I'm gonna say because these people
exactly,
post,
right?
"Where's the ban list? Where's the ban list? Where's the ban list?" And they go, "Here's a ban list." They go, "Ah, not that one."
Oh, it's too close to my
and it's
event.
like, then don't beg for like. So, what do you want? Like what?
Well, no, but now we have we have both sides to this. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer a staggered ban list, and then you have like what the YCS be invalidated in terms of like like format progression and stuff like that, or would you rather you just rip the band-aid off? Ban list is legal this date. YCS is next week. Good luck.
I would say most people. Okay, so I'm gonna say I think people who play at a higher level would rather prefer there to be a change because they can adapt much quicker, and people who need to play a lot in order to get things hammered into them will hate it. So this benefit. I also just enjoy things more because I think deck building is the most fun part of Yu-Gi-Oh. So I'm actually interested in going to this YCS now, where before I was not.
Especially when stuff has been the same for so long. Like you welcome change, right? You like to see what
I get
what can
bored, and my
formats,
ADHD goes crazy when I have to do the same thing for 2 weeks, let alone multiple months. So yeah.
So I think competitive players would share the same sentiment. I personally
I don't think it's competitive. I just think it's people who play at a higher level more than normal. Because there could be people who go to like every YCS, but like maybe they haven't gotten their top yet or whatever, but they still want to try it. But they have to try a lot. Like Max is one of those people that has to play a deck for a very long time in order to get a handle of it. And if you're one of those people, this change for LA is definitely not for you.
Sure. Okay, Ryan, how about you?
I understand the sentiment that is being expressed that it's unfair to people without access to cards, something, or like people who are like more like in the community have more access to cards and information. It benefits them even more. And then I will say the point of a YCS and the people who are going to do well and be more competitive at these YCSs are those people anyway. And I don't think the argument of like now the good players have an advantage is an argument. Like the good players already have an advantage because they're good. I don't know what that. I also think this change specifically, I do not think this list specifically Like, I think the one where they banned Tearlament was crazy because it meant that the tier 1, tier 0 deck was unplayable, and you had to buy Kashtira, and you had 1
Yeah.
week to do it. That one, I
And
think,
if you
is
didn't play in
crazy.
Mexico, you did not know how to play
Yes.
Kashtira.
I think that one was crazy. This one, I think, is way more reasonable. And people didn't
Sure.
complain about the Tier Element one because people hated playing against Tier Element. And people said, oh, great, Tier is banned. Like, people were, like, so happy Tier was banned. And they didn't say, well, it's not fair to people who have Tier Limit decks. They have to buy a new deck now 1 week before the event. Because they didn't care about those people because they hated playing against Tier Limit. And now we have, like, this situation of it's unfair that the ban list is so close to the event. And it's like, we've had ban lists go a week before the event like a bunch of times at this point, and I truly have never heard anybody say that before. And I don't know what, again, maybe this is unpopular opinion, hot take. I think people just like to complain. There's an old thing that, like, this is like, I believe the exact quote is more about like Wizards of the Coast and Magic than it is about Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think it applies here. It's like, if Wizards put $100 bills in booster packs, people would complain about the way they were folded. And it's like, sometimes it truly, truly feels like people just like to complain, even when, like, and I just, like, yes, not everything Konami does is super great and super transparent, and you can be upset with it. But it's like, I think it is so, so, so crazy to look at every single social media, every single one. If you look at every single social media post that they make on the Yu-Gi-Oh page, check out this product coming in this, check out this thing. There are 100 comments. Where's the ban list? Where's the ban list? Where's the ban list? Why? Where's the ban list? Where's the ban list? Why are you posting this? Not the ban list. Then they post the ban list. People are like, ugh. It's like, what do you like? And I would bet a lot of them are the same people. Like, I understand. I'm not gonna check I'm not gonna cross-reference every single name. I'm not going to cross-reference every name on all 200 comments on every Konami post, but I'm sure you will find overlap of enough people complaining, where's the ban list, where's the ban list, and the ban list comes out, and they go, well, why is it in effect? Okay, what did you want then? Like, I don't know. I think I got, this bothers me a lot. I think I got, like,
it bothers me too, because especially, I think, so, I mean, this is going to be, we're going to go way too far out, but there's a lot of, like, psychology involved around being able to, like, complain on social media, and why it is so, like, incessant, and why you find these people that, like, no matter what, there's always something else. Like, you can't please everyone, but like, I've read, like, a lot about it, like the psychology behind social media and, like, people who vent and complain and stuff, because psychology interests me. I went to school for psychology, so, but yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, you cannot please everyone. Someone's always going to be upset. So, and if you try to appeal to everyone, that's also just as bad most of the time, because you're branching off in too many directions.
Yes, and I will say, like, if you are a person who says, I actually like the format and don't want a ban list, then yes, you have every right to be like you have every right to feel like, it is kind of annoying that they announced it a week before the event because I liked the format and every card that was in it. Somehow you liked Summon Limit, I'm not really sure. But what bothers me is not, like, I don't think somebody saying the list coming out so soon to the event is annoying. I don't think them saying that is inherently wrong. I think what is insane is the same people commenting on every single post, where's the ban list, where's the ban list, where's the ban list? Then they post the ban list and they go, why is it in effect? What? Like, what do you want? Like, and I truly think, again, a lot of those people who, like, if they go to Raleigh and don't do well, they're going to blame it on the ban list, when if they went and there was no ban list and they didn't do well, they would have blamed it on the lack of a ban list and this format being bad. And I think, like, there are a lot of people like that, and it just bothers me when I see that. Okay, anyways. I got really heated on that one because I don't know why. It shouldn't affect me. I think it's just like,
Brian, let's be honest.
God.
You have nothing else to get angry
I
about.
know.
You got
I
to
do.
channel it somewhere.
You
It's
know what?
fine.
Yeah, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's that I don't have that much stress going on right now that it's like here we are, right? Like this is just I'm like, damn, these people ruining my day, being mad at this corporation. Like I have to defend this corporation that I usually don't defend, but here we are. Yeah. Anyways, I think the ban list going into effect is fine.
Yeah, I mean, like, you still get to play your fire decks. If you're not playing a fire deck, you still get to play those decks.
Yeah. Unless you were playing the Boral load deck, where your entire win condition was summoning all different Boral loads.
Yes.
Then you can't play that one. But yes. Or if you're playing your summon limit deck, then you can't play that either. But here we are.
Yep,
Anyways,
you gotta take summon limit out of your deck.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening. That went way over. This was longer than I thought it would be, but this happens every time now. So I feel like I just need to accept that.
Unless they're playing in Raleigh, and then next week we can come back and talk about Raleigh and Legendary.
I wasn't going to until this list. I was not going to play, but now I am. So now I'm excited to do a little bit of tinkering.
Wait to see what happens. We have such a small pocket in between. Like, will it still be Snake Eye potentially? Will people default to the safer picks like Voiceless or something? Who knows? But it will be streamed. I can't wait. Well, hopefully it's streamed. Actually, I might have been lying by saying that, but we'll see what happens.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, I'm also pretty sure it is, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, this event won't matter as much solely for the fact that, like, we are going to WCQ. Like I said, there will be multiple sets in between, but I think this does, this is like the start of this season. This is probably going to be the ban list we have for Nats. Like, you have to look from here, and you have to keep looking as we go down.
It probably will be the list we'll have till the WCQ. I would be shocked if they got a list in before June or July.
Well, you know what? If there is any potential change, I feel like it would happen for your event and not mine. So
fair enough. Because our event is however many months after yours, a month after yours. So yeah, I agree.
And when people say no, that's not how that works, I'll let you know that I played my WCQ or whatever it is, my Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship in 2022 with
Power
of the Elements legal, and Runic legal too, by the way.
Yeah, and we had neither one legal. Yeah, so
nope. Europe just had one of them, so it's kind of funny. But.
Yeah, it was like it was like literally 5 different formats almost for the
It was very cool.
But all right, that wraps it up. Thank you all for listening. I should have said this at the beginning. If you're somehow still listening at the 2-hour mark, what was your favorite change in the Forbidden and Limited list, and which cards did you?
And why was it summon limit?
Yeah, why was it summon limit? Yeah, I definitely needed to put that in the beginning, and I forgot, but it's okay. It's all right.
And if I guess, like, for the topic of discussion, if you have anything that you think was just neglected on the list, feel free to talk about it. Or we can maybe discuss it next list too.
All right, so next time will be Legacy of Destruction, potentially YCS Raleigh discussion if we wait till after Raleigh to record, but we'll see. All right, anyways, I'm going to get this up as soon as possible. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.